What's something your employer did that instantly destroyed employee morale? We have a new warehouse manager. For a while, it was every day that there'd be some new changes that destroyed morale. People dread coming to work now because who knows what it'll be like today. Here's a list of grievances in no particular order. He thinks we're Amazon. He came from Amazon and wants to make us Amazon. Amazon is the worst place in the world to work. It doesn't seem to understand that we make things, not just ship things. Track all the things manually because screw you. He wants to know how many units we're producing per hour and whether it counts as direct or indirect labor. He wants managers to plan for the day, a task that, given the nature of our business, may as well be planning for the weather. That means that I had to report my numbers twice, once at the end of the day for my actual machine logs, and once so my manager could make her plan. With a ton of micromanaging in the middle about which orders I have or have not fulfilled, we could have proper warehouse tracking and automation software, but frack it. Synced Excel spreadsheets and people handwriting stuff on paper, more middle management. We had too much already, but now we have a ton of new useless people trying to justify their jobs by making us do busy work for them, training videos that don't apply to us, emailing people to do the jobs we were already doing, and endless meetings. You can never find our actual middle management, the people you need to get tasks done, because they're always in meetings, or taking the day off because no one wants to work here anymore. Tracking labor and productivity? We started having to juggle staff around for no particular reason to make the numbers work on paper. They permanently took away 2 of my staff. The 2 I was training to be able to do my job. Somehow, they're still expected to fill my extremely technical position when I'm not there, without me being able to teach them anything. Cool, right? The rest of the time, they're floating around other departments, doing a task just long enough for someone to train them on it before floating somewhere else. He moved my department across the warehouse. My physical location can't move. It would cost a whole lot to move my machines. But now everyone I work with is on the other end of the warehouse for no particular reason. There were lots of changes to attendance policies. One of them lasted exactly a day. You get 24 paid personal hours per year on top of regular PTO, and if you're late, you have to use them in 1-hour blocks. So if you're 6 minutes late, go get a coffee or something. When you run out of personal time, you're fired. Half the staff was still working for a temp agency and didn't get paid personal time at all, meaning they'd be fired if they were late once. Thankfully, everyone raised this issue with their managers, and we got it retracted the next day. A general attitude of blame the employees. For instance, one of those middle management positions we have is safety and facility inspector, but he's not here. So instead, we have a committee of know-nothing people with other actual jobs who go around and write up reports and complain to you to fix things that aren't really your responsibility to fix. I started kicking things back to the middle management maintenance person whenever they complain. Oh, we're waiting on the maintenance guy. Get with him. He's not here now? Not my problem then. All problems, no fix. Like the above, we'll get directives about things that are not in our power to fix. For instance, all cart wheels must lock. Great, not a single cart in the building has locking wheels. Are you replacing them? Or are you just going to yell at me that the cart wheels don't lock? Do you expect me to go out to Home Depot and buy locking wheels and/or carts with locking wheels? Have you allocated a budget for this? Are you giving me the company card? No. We already had morning meetings, but they instituted a chant requirement for them. The new rumor is that we're going to be required to say the Pledge of Allegiance now. The snowballing effect of old-timers quitting and being fired. All of the old leadership is disappearing, and people are being asked to do jobs above their pay grade, and nobody in charge knows anything anymore, which leads to more people quitting. The rumors that my warehouse will close in less than a year. There's a bunch of petty stuff that I didn't even mention here. I think they're trying to drive as many people as they can so they don't have to pay unemployment. Suffice to say, I've been applying for jobs and going to interviews. One of the last ones I went on, they said they already had a half-dozen applicants for my warehouse and thought we were going under. Story 2. I worked at a family-owned market that was well-known and loved by the locals. The owners were a lovely couple that took care of their employees and would bend over backwards for their customers. They were very active in the community and highly respected. They had a few core employees and would hire temporary staff during the summer and holidays. The temps were mostly high schoolers and college kids that were home on break. They would bring back the same people as long as they could, and the kids would try to stay as long as they could. The pay was well above market for those positions. We could shop there and get a 75% discount. After 6 months, you get 2 weeks of paid vacation. And the owners would close the store a couple days a year and host a party for all the employees. It was the best job any high schooler in the area could get. I lived right next to the store and my parents were friends with the owners, so I was given a job there. All my friends were jealous. After working there for a few years, the couple decided they wanted to retire to spend time with their daughter and her children in another state. Many tears were shed and they had a huge retirement party where they introduced their son to everyone and told us he was taking over. They gushed about his prestigious business education and background. As soon as they were gone, the son decided he was going to remake the store in his image. He fired basically all the staff, most of whom had been there for 10 to 15 years or more. He then staffed the whole place with homeschool kids and junkies. He cut the discounts and vacations. He hired some old high school friends to manage the place so he could take the profits to go party. The shop went from having the same staff for years to having to retrain an entirely new staff every other month. No one wanted to stay. Managers were reporting the perfectly good product as damaged and taking it home. Shelves sat empty. Locals stopped shopping there. The place became a corpse of what it had been. The original owners had enough of their friends complaining to them about their son that they came back for a short time and tried to make it right, but it was too late. The original staff had all moved on and vendors had stopped doing business with the store. They decided to close the store, sell the property, and move away permanently. Last I heard, the son was in trouble with the IRS and his wife divorced him when she found him with a call girl. Story 3. For years, I worked in a high-stress, high-turnover, low-paying job doing caregiving for adults with developmental disabilities. These issues are typical in this field, and my company, like many others, exploited salaried employees by expecting them to work 50 to 60 hours regularly and often more. I went months at a time working 70, 80, or 90-hour weeks. I stayed through a lot of BS because I loved the people I served. Last year, corporations required all managers to attend mandatory training about caregiver fatigue. It made it worse for me to have language to describe the fatigue and burnout I'd been experiencing for years. Within the meeting, the corporate acknowledged that they didn't pay us enough and that many employees who were supervised were literally homeless, food insecure, or on the verge of it. But increased pay is not on the table right now, so let's talk about other things we can do. They crowdsourced this exhausted group of salaried workers, who suggested things like starting a company food pantry, a company clothing drive, and compiling lists of shelters in the area. That meeting was so blood-boiling and infuriating to sit through that I made the decision that day it was time to finally get out. I worked my last day for that employer this summer. I'm still looking for a full-time job. I'm trying to hold out for a company that values my work enough to pay me fairly. In an ideal world, this new company doesn't add insult to injury by mandating training about how to recognize telltale signs of being ready to snap. Hopefully, when I've had some time to recover, I'll be able to come up with some lasting ways to change things in the caregiving industry. These systemic problems will only compound themselves as baby boomers continue to age. Story 4. Several years ago, I was employed at a company that was notorious for its high-stress, heavy workload atmosphere. There were a number of different departments that all collaborated, to some extent, on upcoming projects and releases, along with a few ancillary teams that focused on either legal matters or community management. Despite everyone having discrete tasks and assignments, the organization's structure for bonuses was based entirely on overall profits, meaning that many people, particularly those folks working in a support capacity, had about as much control over their own success as they did over whether or not a bird would smack into one of the building's windows. That didn't stop the folks in upper management from pretending otherwise, though. If you all work hard, various high-level managers used to say, you'll be taking home 5% of your total salary as a bonus. If we meet certain milestones, you might even get 10%. What about those of us who always work hard? Someone would respond, our jobs don't directly affect revenue. Shut up, the managers would reply. Also, shut up. I may be paraphrasing. Anyway, the state of affairs was eventually recognized as being a less than appealing carrot for the company's workhorses, and a solution was proposed. Every department's quarterly budget would be weighed against quarterly revenue, and the resulting percentage would be used to calculate individual bonuses. There was some kind of complicated equation that allegedly governed this, and the change was trumpeted as being good for everyone. Finally, we were told that our individual efforts would actually contribute to our bonuses. It didn't take long for someone to notice a slight problem, though. The so-called change wasn't really a change at all. It was just a convoluted way of hiding the fact that everyone was still being held accountable for overall success, regardless of what they actually did. Furthermore, it was discovered that the milestones had been pushed up significantly, meaning that nobody would get a bonus unless some fairly unrealistic goals were met. The fanfare and fawning over the whole thing seemed disingenuous at best. Needless to say, someone pointed this out. Shut up, the managers replied. Story 5. My boss is looking to retire in the next 3 to 4 years. He told everyone that he wanted us to come up with our visions for the company and its future over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. We're a small office of about a half dozen people, but we've been growing, so everyone brought up growth projections and succession planning once he retires, etc. His son is the heir apparent and is a precocious 8-year-old, so in my 20-year version, I even included the grandson joining the business and grooming it to become a legacy company. My boss went last and we were expecting something acknowledging some of our thoughts or at least an expression of appreciation that the company he founded would live on well past his retirement, be in good hands, etc. Instead, it was brutal and short. It was something along the lines of, I do everything around here anyway, so I should just sell the company to fund my retirement and you can all find other companies to work for in a few years. Mood ruined, meeting ended. Don't let these stories go unnoticed. Give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe to stay tuned for more shocking workplace accounts. Story 6. As an electrical contractor of 35, 27 of whom are out in the field, we earn PTO hours based upon the number of hours worked in a given week. Full-time employees earn what is equal to about 6 extra paid days off in a year, which is typically used for errands, sick days, taking care of children, and so on. One of the field employees is known to all other field techs, tippler. Word makes it to the office personnel that this individual was using his PTO because he had tipped too many back the night before and couldn't make it to work on time. The owner denied his PTO claim and he drove into the office to have a shouting match with the owner. The very next day, a company-wide email is sent stating that PTO will be indefinitely suspended because it is being misused. I'm not even sure if what they did is legal. But instead of dealing with this one employee, they decided to use it as a way to save paying out around 180 earned days off throughout the entire company. This happened about a week ago. Morale dropped instantly. Most field techs started showing up late, playing around on their phones and leaving early. A couple guys have already jumped ship and it sounds like a large number of others are about to follow. I'm going to wait out a couple months as I'm owed a Yeti cooler and vacation time on my anniversary. Story 7. I was busting my bum off at a company where I was effectively on call 24 hours a day for 3 years, leading the development of core products. My boss constantly told me I was wrong about things, only to come back 2 months later to tell people to do what I told them to, 2 months before, but now claiming it was his idea, blaming me for every mistake in the product, including those that were his ideas, and refusing to let me get around to doing those things I was actually hired to do because there was a chronic backlog of things to do because he refused to hire enough hands to get them done. Those were bad enough, but the time he flat out told me that he didn't care about my career progression or anyone else's on my team, when he canceled our participation in conferences so that we could slave away on a project we'd already come close to completing. Yeah, that was bad. We lost 3 people on a team of 4 in the core product. About half the staff is turned over, and yet the company insists that nothing is wrong and that the guy is a great leader. Yep, I'm going to be a reference for another guy who's leaving tomorrow. Story 8. Former teacher. The administrators in my school were usually pretty chill, but had a habit of randomly coming up with minor rules that they would enforce for us. Male teachers had to wear ties even on Jeans Day, etc. Overall, it wasn't bad, except for the time an administrator made a crucial mistake. They banned staff from drinking coffee in front of students. If you've never worked at a school, you'd think this isn't a big deal. When you spend nearly 100% of your day in front of students, it is definitely a big deal. First, we tried to find any loophole we could. Energy drinks, banned the next week. Tea, banned 2 days later. It was chaos. Eventually, we realized they couldn't fire an entire school's worth of teachers and aides, so we ended up doing the one thing that private schools fear most. We formed a union. Realistically, it was more of a weird pseudo-union focused specifically on civil disobedience regarding the coffee issue, but it ruffled feathers nonetheless. The administrators caved to our demands, allowed us to drink coffee again, and even bought each of us a reusable coffee mug at a gesture of goodwill. And that's the story of how a handful of school administrators almost accidentally created a teachers' union over a complete non-issue. Story 9. It was a 1-2 punch. The company-wide meeting announced the promotion of several high-level managers and executives, mostly title and responsibility changes. There were lots of smiles and handshakes, not unlike a college graduation ceremony. After these promotion announcements, they declared that due to the stagnant economy and poor sales, the entire company would be experiencing a pay freeze as a result, so no raises for anyone. They then concluded the meeting by discontinuing casual Fridays, so no more jeans on Friday. It almost felt like it was designed to make people want to quit and leave. It worked though. I and many others moved on to greener pastures within the year. This was a mid-sized manufacturing firm in the US around 2010. I moved on to what was the most lucrative job I've ever had as a result of this, so I don't hold any resentment. I just remember it utterly destroyed employee morale that day. It was the ownership or management's plan to get people to quit. It was pretty stupid, as only the mobile and capable talent moved on. While those incapable of another job were the lifters, who would probably stay on even if the company announced they planned to cut the oxygen supply to the building by 50% to save money, stayed on through it. I can understand the need for promotion to fill positions for vacancies, etc. I can understand the need to have a pay freeze. Beats layoffs, right? But doing the prior two right after each other and then saying, yeah, and no more casual Fridays just seemed really vindictive and malicious. If anything, they should have softened the blow of the pay freeze by saying casual Fridays now every day, and people would have left the meeting at least neutral, if not slightly hopeful. Story 10. Old folks' home kitchen, maybe 20 staff members. The boss declared we were too happy and made a new set of rules. There was to be absolutely no talking, laughing, or jokes. The kitchen was to be silent because we were distracting ourselves from work. Anyone working less than 9 or 10-hour shifts was forbidden bathroom breaks. Going to the bathroom on a shift with less than 9 or 10 hours was a fireable offense. Permitted bathroom breaks could not be on the clock. Your lunch must be used to use the bathroom. Lunch breaks were 15 minutes long. Any communication with management was seen as inappropriate. Staff and management were to be kept separate at all times. Manager did a staff member and made a big deal. That's why this was made. You will not be paid overtime but will be expected to work. If you are to clock out by 8 p.m. but are still needed, you must clock out and then return to work. Complaints to HR or the labor board are fireable offenses. Yes, people complained. Yes, the place was investigated. An ex-boss was sued, lost, morale dropped. They have a hard time keeping employees now, and from what I heard, most of the new employees are high school students. The ex-boss announced a sudden retirement at the end of the year and the kitchen will be taken over by all new people. I jumped ship early on. Do not miss the place. Story 11. Large factory, not unionized. Each department clocks in at a different place, mainly that department's break room. My department clocked in across the facility from the main entrance, which meant it took about 15 minutes to walk from the front door to where you clocked in and out, and another 5 to walk from the entrance to the parking lot. There was a side exit that we would use, however, that literally cut that walk down from 20 minutes to 3 since our department was right next to the parking lot. Management decided that all employees must enter and exit through the same door, which meant we had to walk all the way down to the main entrance and then back around to our cars. There was so much rebellion from the employees in our department that they had to bar the door shut with 2x4s. Joke's on them, even non-unionized employees can be a pain in the bum. We contacted the fire marshal, who, upon seeing a fire exit barricaded, fined the company $8,000. We still were not allowed to enter through this door, but they stopped trying to stop us. Story 12. Not me, but someone in my direct family works for Build-A-Bear as a chief workshop manager. The Pay Your Age event was horrendous for their team morale and made several of them want to quit. Beyond just the main PYA event, the next day the company sent out coupons for $15 off to everyone, not just the people who showed up and didn't get a bear, as an insufficient way of saying, sorry, we couldn't meet demand. It was a BS marketing ploy and they knew full well what it would cause. So all being out of stock and utterly exhausted, the entire following week they had massive amounts of traffic and angry customers demanding to use the same printed coupons 4 times in a transaction. It's supposed to be 1 per customer, but there's nothing preventing someone from printing multiple copies and using them over and over in different transactions. Then their customer care team over the phone tells customers one thing while corporate tells the employees at the store to do something else. And the store employees end up dealing with angry customers who were lied to. I've lost all respect for Build-A-Bear. Thanks for joining us today on these eye-opening workplace woes. If you've ever experienced a morale-killing moment at work, you're not alone. Share your stories with us in the comments below. And for even more tales of employer misconduct, be sure to watch our related video, What's the Worst Thing an Employer Did to You? Story 2 is traumatic. See you there.